Hey, what's going on, guys? Sorry it's been a little while since I've put up a video, but I've been busy with work and school and just my daily life. So I've still been playing games, but I just haven't really been doing any videos. But today I wanted to talk about a game that I've been playing quite a bit that you might be on the fence about. I know a lot of my friends are, and a lot of people I've talked to about it, and that is Honor. Do you have it? I have it. I have the game. I don't know about Honor. Go away, puppy. Anyway, I just want to kind of talk about some of the things I like about it and some of the things I don't like. And overall, long story short, I think it's a pretty good game, but there are some good and bad parts. So let's get right. So, if you don't know what For Honor is, it's basically a fighting game. Kind of in a loose sort of way. It is, it's fighting, but not in the way you would think of a fighting game like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or any of those. I personally, I like those games, but I'm not very good at them because it's more of just like memorizing the combos and catching your opponent off guard and just having the upper hand pretty much the whole match. In that sense, I like For Honor a lot more because even though it's not so much remembering combos and that sort of thing, there is things you have to learn about it. And even if you're a low-level player, you can still if you know the basics, you can still kind of come out ahead even if there's a high-level player against you. Like when I first started out, I think I was competing against a level 17 player and I was only 1 or 2, and I still beat him just because I had a good basic grasp of the fundamentals of the game. So in that sense, it's pretty fun. But I guess you've probably heard of the different the classes. There's knights, Vikings, and samurai, and they all have unique traits and play styles. So it's got something there for pretty much everybody. I personally really like the knights. I haven't really fooled around with a whole lot of the other characters too much. I really like the way the knights look. So honestly, that's been the biggest selling point for me. But there definitely is a lot of variation in the characters. As of right now, I believe there's 12 characters you can play as. And then later on, there's going to be a season pass with like 6 more or something like that. So there's definitely some variety in this game. Now, as far as gameplay, you can probably see from the footage here. That's not really helping what I'm doing right there. This is kind of my little taunt. But you can see the little directional arrows, and when it flashes red, that means I need to block, up if it's up, and right and left, and that sort of thing. So I really like that. It's kind of dynamic instead of just holding one button to block or pushing forward to block. In a lot of fighting games, you actually kind of have to pay attention to what direction you're going to get attacked from. So in that sense, it's a lot of fun to just kind of going back to what I said about even if you're a low-level character, if you know how to block and parry and that sort of thing, it can be a lot of fun. So in that sense, I really like the combat, just defensively as well. But the different classes, like there's this character I'm playing as right now is the Warden of the Knights faction, and he's probably like the quickest of the faction there. But well, actually, there's one more that's a lot quicker than him, but he's one of the faster ones. And there's a couple of like heavy hitters, but each faction will basically have like a ranged person with a spear, or I believe the samurai have a guy with like a bow staff that has a knife on the end of it. So. And then there's also guys that have shields and swords, and so basically what you would expect from that era of combat. Now, the combat itself, I believe, is very satisfying. When you land a hit and it's like a heavy attack, you really can kind of feel the weight behind it, and it's just a lot of fun to, overpower your opponent or even outthink them in certain circumstances, because there are environmental things you can do, like you can grab your opponent and throw him into a fire pit, or one of the characters I like to play as, the Lawbringer of the Knights faction, he has a really long battle axe, and he can like stab it and throw somebody over the top of him. So that's another way, like if you're on a cliff and you're standing like with your back up against the cliff, if you do that and throw him off, then you've kind of outthought your opponent. A lot of people think that's kind of a cheap way to win, but a win's a win, man. So what are you gonna do? I don't do that every time, but if they're being a dick, you know, I'm gonna do it. So there's a lot of different tactics to it. You know, just watching, you know, gameplay or anything like that, you might think it's just kind of like a simple, you know, block and then hack and slash kind of game. But there is a lot to it, and there's a lot of things to learn. Even though the characters on average only have about anywhere from like 10 to 15 combos to learn, and they're all pretty simple. It's just usually just a combination of like R1 and R2 or square and that sort of thing. So it's not really complicated at face value, but when you really get into the meat of the game and start trying to figure out, you know, all the nuances of all the characters, it really does become a lot more fleshed out and fun. Now, you might be thinking that, you know, it's just a fighting game and there's not that many characters, so, you know, is there going to be enough here to keep me, you know, playing for, you know, such, you know, what seems like not a very substantial game? And, you know, I'll admit, I don't think there's that much here. I think this game would have been better priced at maybe like $30 or $40. But for what it is, I still think it's really fun, and there are several different game modes. The one that I'm playing right here is called Elimination, and there's 4 players, you know, on each team, and it's basically like team deathmatch. It'll start you off, you know, 1v1. You're fighting, you know, your opponent, but you can sprint off and try and, you know, help your teammate finish somebody, and then team up against your original opponent. Again, a lot of people think that's, you know, kind of cheating or, you know, a cheap shot or whatever, but it happens a lot. So that's a side note. I'll get into that in a minute. But there's, you know, this match elimination, and then there's the regular one-on-one duel, and that's just, you know, you fight one person and there's nobody else involved. And then there's 2-on-2 brawl, and it's basically the same as not the same. It's the same as dueling, but there's, you know, a couple of people in the match, and that one I like quite a bit. Duel and brawl are probably my favorites. And there's also one that's called Dominion, and that's probably like the biggest and most grand game mode on here. That has the most going on. In that one, there's 4 players per team as well, but there's also you know, AI bots throughout the map that'll just be kind of like fighting amongst themselves, and, you know, they can do damage to you, but they're pretty much just like little pawns that are there. You know, all you do is just hit one time and they're dead. So they're more of an annoyance than, you know, an actual danger. But it's still kind of neat to just watch this big raging battle in like a medieval setting. So in that sense, it's pretty cool. But aside from that, there's really not a whole lot of game modes in here. So if that doesn't sound appealing to you, this might not be for you. But, you know, even though there's only 4 or anywhere from 4 to 6 game modes, I think there's quite a bit there in those modes. Now, I've talked about all the stuff that I like about it and all the good aspects, but I'd like to get into some stuff that I don't really enjoy, and that is the huge presence of microtransactions in this game. Now, you can see here I'm scrolling through the different little you know, customizations for my character, and there's the cost there of the steel, the in-game currency, and you can see all those ornaments cost about 3,000 steel. And even when I'm winning matches, I only get about 20 steel per match. So, you know, there's like these outfits that are 7, you know, anywhere from 3 to, I believe, like 15 or 20,000 steel. So, you know, if you do the math, it's going to take you forever to get that much steel on your own. But thankfully, Ubisoft decided, you know, we can buy it. How nice of them. And you can see you can spend $100 on this in-game currency for steel, just for like a little like dragon coming out of your helmet. So, you know, in that sense, you know, it is kind of disappointing to see that much microtransactions in such a, you know, AAA game that I already paid $60 for. That would, you know, I can technically unlock it in the game, but it would take so long to do. Most people are going to lose interest in it before they even get to that point. So I've been playing it pretty regularly for about a week now, and I have about 8,000 steel. So it is doable to get that sort of thing, but it's just kind of like you wish it wasn't there. Like you wish it was just more like, say you won like 5 duels in a row and you unlock a cool ornament for your helmet or a new sword. And you do unlock gear, you know, every once in a while. I'd say it's probably every like 3 or 4 matches, maybe more, but you'll get like new armor or new chest or new helmet or a hilt for your sword and that sort of thing. So there is, unlockable loot in the game, but there definitely is a big presence of microtransactions, and I just found that kind of off-putting, and I think a lot of people will find that to be the same for them. Another issue that I have with the game that I think I brought up earlier was that if you're playing elimination or brawl or any of those matches where there's several players on each team, a lot of times if your team gets overpowered, then there's going to be like 2 or 3 people fighting against you at once. And that can be really, really unfair, even though there is, it's called revenge mode, which basically means if you block enough incoming attacks, your character, you can press triangle or Y or whatever, and you get a kind of a sudden increase in like attack and stamina. So it is possible to take on several players at once, but the whole time I've played it, I think I've only done that like once. I've taken on like 2 players isn't that bad, but if it's 3 or more, you're pretty much screwed. It's just gonna end in like this flurry of samurais and axes and swords, and you're just gonna end up dead. So if that's really a big problem, you can always just play the single player like duel and that sort of thing and just kind of avoid that. But it is still fun to do those multiplayer matches as long as you don't get like a big group of people just ganging up on you. So I try not to do that. Every once in a while you'll get into a lobby where even if there are several people that have already died on your team, the opposing team will sometimes, like extremely rarely, they will just kind of stand by and watch your fight take place. They won't step in unless their teammate dies, and like I said, that's really, really rare. I try and do that, but it's pretty slim chances that that's going to happen. So I wouldn't go into it thinking, oh, people are going to be nice. It's for honor, so they'll be honorable. No. So that's a major issue with the game, but it's still fun. So you can get past it as long as you're not going to get like too upset about that sort of thing. So those are my thoughts on the game. I personally am really enjoying it, and I think that there's a lot here to be found. And it's probably my favorite fighting game that I've ever played because, like I mentioned, you don't have to be like a pro to be able to have fun and to beat people on here. So while there is that presence of microtransactions and the possibility that you're going to get ganged up on if you're doing the bigger multiplayer matches, it's still a fun game. I think it's a bit high for $60. I would wait maybe till it's 40 or 30 or even less than that, which it'll probably drop within a month or 2. So if you feel like that looks fun, but I think I'm gonna wait, that's probably a wise choice. But I'm definitely enjoying it, and I could probably recommend this to you without feeling bad about it or anything. So it's not for everybody though. So if you're on the fence, just pick it up used, and then that way you're not locked into it if you don't like it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed watching, and thanks for coming to see the show, and we'll see you next time.